excited about my upcoming book, Maisie Wood, and they were basically wanting to brag about the great marketing campaign they're going to have for it and the dreams they have, and just, trying to get me all pumped up about it. And in the course of that communication, I got an email this morning informing me that the reformatory has basically sold 200,000 copies. It's like 193 and change thousand copies, which blows me away. So, yeah.
Sweetheart,
Oh, some of you
you've
were saying
earned
that I should
this.
applaud for that. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm just so excited. So how do you replicate it?
How do you
One of the
replicate it? Do you
yeah,
replicate it by looking at where you were coming from when you did it the first time? It's
true.
like that, and I would, from the outside, I would say that's commitment to telling a family story. It is commitment to justice, channeling your mother through what she tried to create with you, which is someone who had the same commitment to the world, but did not have to go out and march. That you're marching with your words, you're marching with your books.
And
And
Hollywood is a different landscape in terms of the history of racism. When you go to a small town like the fictitious Gracetown, Florida in 1950, you've got the white only sign, the colored sign, the visible talons of discrimination just everywhere you look. Whereas Hollywood, even to this day, but especially back in the 20s, would fool you with a big check. You know what I mean? Like, this is more money than you've ever had or ever seen. Now talk with this voice. You know what I mean? And it's a different, it's like
I don't know, Mr. Sir. You're
it's,
saying that if I talk to you the way you think I should talk, I can get more zeros on my check?
and I hate to keep giving it to poor old Stephen Fetchit, whose real name I forget, but he was the first black actor to make $1 million in Hollywood. If you go back and Google his old movies, that man was asleep on his feet. He spoke like he had a mouthful of mush. He was every bit the stereotype of what white America thought blackness was. And audiences ate it up, and he was the first one to earn $1 million.
Yeah,
Likewise,
did I tell you
yeah,
that
yeah, but tell
I was
tell the
hitchhiking
audience.
one day on Washington Boulevard in Los Angeles and I got picked up by a guy in a truck. His business card said his name, then son of the famous Stephen Fetchit. It was Stephen Fetchit's son. And he just wanted to be sure that everybody, I think he did this to everybody he met. My dad was not what you saw on the screen. My
Mm.
dad was a proud man. He did well for his family. It was, I felt both sad for him and happy for him at the same time.
And what's crazy about the representation, and given in the 1920s, we're not that far from Reconstruction, the end of Reconstruction. So a lot of, that public education that started under Reconstruction still had a long way to go in a lot of Black communities. So there were absolutely a lot of people who could not read and write, absolutely a lot of people who might have spoken more like their forebears did, when they were still on that plantation. So as a viewer watching these movies, I just naturally thought that was how people sounded. Like, I wasn't judging, maybe not Stephen Fetchit, that was clearly exaggerated. But for someone like a Hattie McDaniel, that's a good example, who won the first Black woman to win an Oscar for Gone with the Wind, her mammy, you just don't realize the degree to which they're acting. Okay, like that's why I think The Wire for many years, nobody in that cast ever won an Emmy because they just assumed they were being themselves, especially the black actors. Like, and then you find out later, Idris Elba is from a whole ass different country. He's acting. They are not these people. They are playing characters, but it really wasn't Hollywood's vested interest to have people believing, or let's just say the populace really supported this idea that black people were what they thought. They were the faithful servants that, they're like a member of the family,
I would say that
they're
it gets
not
difficult.
mad at me about anything.
T, Tananarive, I would say that one of the things that is difficult is that if you add sufficient specificity to what you're saying, it can sound too confrontational. So if I were to say that I believe that if you switched the racial groups, that black people would be the same way, would do the same things, then I think it's easier to say it isn't Hollywood. It's white people in Hollywood who want to believe that black people are a particular way because that reinforces a narrative.
Mm.
It's what's critical to do is to remember that I'm talking about human behavior, not specifically white behavior. That if you look at it that way, then it's possible, I think, to say this is how we got here and this is how we move on from here. And the way that we move on from here is for us, from my point of view, for us to deal with the aspects to for each of us as individuals to hold ourselves responsible for our behavior, our emotions, our results, to protect our families and to teach our families these same things, to be aware of the fact that we must not fall into the traps that those who have hurt us fell into and would
I
love
don't
for
think
us to fall into. That's
I don't think
kind of my position.
I feel like I'm more pointing it out.
Yeah.
I think pointing it out is necessary for growth because the denial has gone on for far too long. Denial is far too easy a place. I mean, part of the reason we're where we are right now in terms of politically and on the world stage is because there's been so much denial in the past about how we were kind of letting the police state creep up on us because it didn't affect too many people's communities. And if you weren't affected by it, it's like, aside from the George Floyd protests, um, right before that, Black Lives Matter had been considered a terrorist group because it was trying to point out police killings, and Colin Kaepernick couldn't even play football anymore because he kneeled to protest police killings. And now we're in a situation where we're worried about jackboots at our polls. And it's all related. It's all related. And I consider it my job to sort of help people see it through the prism of history. So looking at the history of Hollywood, and it's true, people do mistake actors for who they are, but marginalized actors, whether it's Asian actors who have to do the accent, as Aziz Ansari pointed out in his series Master of None, you've got a surfer dude from Manhattan Beach who has to go to the audition and sound like this, and whatever, because that's what American audiences expect to hear from someone with that color skin. I think the more people understand it, the more we can move beyond it.
I agree. I mean, I think that what I've tried to do is to look at the question, what is it that causes individual behavior? Every time you write, there are only a couple things to write about. What are human beings and what is the world that human beings experience? Science fiction, has traditionally gone deeper into the question of what is the world than what are people. I think that things started changing in the 1970s with the new wave. So now we kind of demand some of both. But if you go deep enough into, when you look at somebody who does something that you believe is damaging, non-optimal, there are a couple different ways you can react to that. One of them is by getting angry or pointing the finger. The other is asking yourself, how is this similar to what I do? How can I see my own flaws, my own failings, my own angers, my own fear? How has my own fear created similar blind spots in me? And once you do that, then the worst person that you encounter can still help you become a better person simply by looking at them as a mirror to a degree. And this is by love. You have to love yourself enough to be willing to look at your own shortfalls. If you don't, then you will look at your own errors and it will diminish your sense of self. What you have to do is treat yourself in that way, the way you would one of your own children who takes a stride or falls off their bicycle. You don't tell them they cannot ride, that they were bad babies for falling. You encourage the positive behavior. You say, this is what happened. Now let's do it this way without losing the love. That we are all children looking for love. And when we can't accept when we fall short, then we will stay in the behaviors that are reinforced by other people because we are afraid to be told that we're wrong. And that quote that I read at the very beginning of this, let's see, what was that quote? It was from Epictetus, who was a slave, as opposed to Marcus Aurelius, who was an emperor. When a slave and an emperor are saying the same things, you might want to listen carefully. And what Epictetus said was, if you would improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid in regard to external things. Now, how many of you who want to be writers were told by people you trusted and who loved you that writing was a stupid thing to aim at, that it wasn't practical? You can't make a living that way. Don't bother. Raise your hand. I'm just kind of curious. Yeah, I want to see how many of you have heard that, because I sure did. I absolutely did. That's right. And
I
look,
was so lucky not to hear. I mean, I was
you were
told
blessed, honey.
I needed a real job, so I was a journalism major back when that was a real job. But yeah, no one ever told me not to pursue it.
Yeah, what they told you was that it was risky and you needed a job to fall back on,
Yeah,
which was, in my opinion, the absolute gospel truth.
absolutely.
That
I mean,
that
to
the
go
arts
into it without knowing that would be foolish.
the arts rest upon a foundation of a community that can take care of its survival needs. So the first thing your parents are going to do is ask, will you survive? Not will you be happy, but will you
Mm.
survive? Then the next question is, can your family survive? Can you fall in love? Can you have a family? Can you have children? Because parents want to become grandparents. That's how parents reproduce, not by having kids, but by making grandparents. So that's why they keep pushing you. It's from a survival basis. That's what that means. So they're going to get you to do the things that will keep you alive and your family alive. And after you're alive and your family is safe, now you can have a hobby. And now you can have a hobby that pays the bills. That's the way they're looking at it. So if you understand that they just love you and they're just trying to help you, and so does your community, but that crabs in a basket thing, if you're going to try to do something that is atypical, that is not like the average person in your community, they will either try to hold you back or they will look at you in astonishment. It's like, I can't believe that you're doing that. Or in some cases, they will feel afraid and angry because they had dreams and they did not go after their dreams. And they told themselves that there was no way to have their dreams, and you are making them a liar. You are saying to them, it's possible. And now they will react to that. And they might react with fear, they might react with astonishment, or they might react with support, or they might be inspired. And the ones who would be inspired are the ones who can be leaders in their community and can inspire others. So we're hoping all of you will want to follow your dreams. And hopefully, if you want to be writers, that we can help you because we have specific knowledge about that. And we will share all of that specific knowledge to you. But if it's not writing, if it's something else that expresses your spirit, your soul, we have generative knowledge. This is how to be good at anything you want to do. Find somebody who's already done it, find out how they think, what they do. That's the most general principle I can offer. Find somebody, whatever your goal is, find somebody else who's already done it, preferably starting from where you are. So, at any rate, what would you like to talk about today before we open things up?
Well, are we going to do our What's Going On segment?
That's right.
I didn't know if you had already talked about
No,
what's.
no, 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 no. I wait that. The formal things always wait for you.
All right. Well, in that case, you know what it is. It's time to talk about what's going on. All right. I love that. I love that. Music's a little loud though. My son's probably not happy. So, I am on my way to Florida for another week. I like to return to my mother's small town of Quincy, Florida, not far from where I was born in Tallahassee, Florida. So next Friday, I'm going to appear at Florida A&M University in Tallahassee as part of their spring literary festival, which I'm very excited about. And that gave me an excuse to go pick up my dad, drive him to his residence, which is about 30 minutes away from Florida A&M. He has a caretaker there, so he'll be at his house with the caretaker. I'll be about 10 minutes away, doing book research, cooking him dinner, just all the things. It's like all the best things wrapped up in one setting. And what I really want to try to capture is a small town flavor. I write about the rural South sometimes, but I grew up in Miami air conditioning. So it's this is the biggest stretch for me is depicting the country as somebody who grew up in a shopping mall. And yeah, that's I'll make it like with the Good House. I made setting a prompt, make the setting a character. So instead of it being the wilds, the setting is the town itself. Make the setting a character. I want to make it as familiar and plausible as anybody who actually grew up in a town like this would recognize on sight. And it's always fun. I have to challenge myself with every book I write. I never want to tread in the same water. So this is pushing small town setting. It's pushing crime thriller blended with the supernatural in a way I haven't really ever done. There's a little bit of it in The Good House. I'm realizing as I reread The Good House, there are some procedural elements in that story with the sheriff, and I want to expand upon that feeling in this book.
Well, we've had some conversations that I think might be useful here that we as artists are always trying to figure out how to expand our capacity. But we're also, at the same time that we have to ask ourselves, who are we? If you go deeply enough into the truth of who you are, I think one of the things that happens is that more people will identify with you. There's a point at which it's fewer people will identify because you're breaking away from the pack. And then it's the, oh my God, you're showing me things about myself and the world that I've never seen that I needed to know. I didn't even know I needed to know this. And at that point, you start breaking through to a bigger audience. That by being very specific about who you are, you emerge at the universal. And so, how there's that question. You have to keep your eyes on how people are responding. But at the same time, you can't let their response tell you what to write and who you are. So I would like
Yeah, if
I'd
if
like
I
for you to kind of say, how are you addressing that?
well, I don't know if this will directly address this the way you intended, but you reminded me of a conversation that's happening on social media right now on Threads. This whole question of if you have criticisms of a book, should you tag the author? And the author's point of view is, why are you tagging me if you're dragging and criticizing my book? And the readers are more like, well, don't you want to get this sort of helpful input from your readers? And I'm going to be honest, I don't really read my reviews on Amazon. I don't read because I still have voices in my head, like little throwaway lines from reviews years ago. I'm like, I don't need that in my head. And writers don't, I mean, yes, readers are an interesting barometer, obviously. You want to reach the readers, but by the time a book gets to readers, hopefully it's been through your beta readers, it's been through your editor, it's been through, in my case, it's been through Steve. That's where the most valuable feedback comes in. Once it's out, it's out. I'm not going to go back and rewrite chapter 3 because you don't like that character. You know what I mean? So there's no urgency to you tagging me with that information. I mean, I haven't jumped into this conversation, but it's been an interesting one to watch. And so I think what you're talking about is balancing your own creative drive with the desire to reach the widest possible audience, right? And for me, it has to start with something deeply personal. And the driving mechanism behind this book I'm researching now is the times we're living in, where great crimes, like literally historic crimes, have been revealed, and there has been no consequence or very little consequence. And what that means, I mean, we can see what that means on the world stage. It's a catastrophe. I would use the word laughing stock, except that it's so much more tragic than that. It would be hysterically funny if it weren't so tragic and so dangerous. And as observers of the world, people who live in this world, we can feel very helpless. And this is a very deliberate effort on my part to take those big emotions, that big frustration, and basically, just like the reformatory was kind of a microcosm of the prison industrial complex, especially juvenile prison, this new book is a microcosm of what happens in a community when capital E, evil is confessed but unpunished. Confessed but unpunished. And, you know, I'm not going to go too more. There's a whole lot more I could say just on this particular topic. But the fact that I feel so passionately about this, that I can still tear up when I think about the fact that those children at the Dozier School never had anyone held accountable for the people who beat them, sexually assaulted them, and in some cases murdered them. That it makes me so upset when I remember that. And so I'm going to put all of that into a story that, yes, on its surface is meant to be entertaining. Like all my books, I think horror's first mandate is to be entertaining, not to swim so deeply into the real life trauma that we can't be entertained, but at the same time to offer sort of a metaphorical emotional solution to those feelings, a feeling of closure, a feeling that there is a kind of justice, even if it's not the kind of justice we want to see sometimes in the world. And justice to me doesn't always mean jail. I think that we over incarcerate in this country. I understand the abolition movement completely and where it's coming from. When you look at the, states with very, very small black and brown populations, and then their prison population is like 60% black and brown people, something's wrong. Something is wrong with our criminal justice system. It is deeply, deeply flawed. It is deeply, deeply racist. But the times that we're living in now, where it's like these kind of white collar criminals, it's rich criminals, it's like, the president, like the whole cabinet, like it's like I, I can't. So even if it's not prison, it's something. It's like there has to be something. There has to be some reckoning reckoning. And without that reckoning, we're going to be in the same situation we were after the Civil War. There was no reckoning after the Civil War. Look where we are now. It's a slow burn. It's a slow burn reemergence of those same attitudes. So anyway, let me get off my high horse. I think the key to following your deepest vision and not being too swayed by will it sell or won't it sell is that honesty, just to be honest with yourself about what you're really feeling. And of course, I want readers to love the book, but I have to love it first.
That is, it's such a delicate thing. I mean, I think that Jordan Peele did an entire movie on the subject of how do you, once you find a voice that millions of people embrace, you realize that in some ways you've entered into the territory that everybody's trying to enter. You tried so many keys and so many locks, and a door opened. So what he did in Nope was suggest that Hollywood is a creature that eats creativity and craps money. It will eat you if you look directly at it. That is very similar to the question of the prog the, the process of spiritual enlightenment, spiritual growth. That you have to do the things you do without looking at the effects you're getting, except through your peripheral vision. You kind of notice that. But one of the problems that gurus fall into, for instance, is that spiritual advancement is perceived as powerful and will make you more attractive. And that, for instance, one of the traps that so many spiritual teachers fall into is becoming sexually attractive to their followers. That you have to be very careful about that, because it's not who you are that's attracting them. It's the light that you're channeling that's attracting them. So if you imagine yourself walking down a road and the mountain is in front of you, and as long as you keep walking toward the mountain, you get more and more attractive. That people will offer you money and sex and other things. And if you chase after those things, you immediately are stepping off the very path that you were on that got the attention in the first place. So people who spend a lifetime writing and they labor in poverty and suddenly they have a bestseller, the temptation to do another book just like the last one they did, the one that suddenly raised their family out of poverty and got them the attention and the voice that they'd always wanted, has to be intoxicating. It has to be gigantic. You have to both notice that you created a language in your work of emotion and imagery and so forth and so on that finally communicated the passion that you were trying to communicate. But at this, or the commitments, you could hear when Tananari was talking about that thing about social justice, that she can go into that space in 5 seconds or less anytime she wants to. That passion is always there. Now her task is to find a way to communicate that passion in a way that the reader has an experience of the emotion without asking the reader to go through the pain she went through. But what she cannot do is let the reader say, now I want you to do this for me and I'll buy another book. All of us million people will buy this book, but you must step off the path. We want you to talk about this thing over here. Or we want you to talk about this in a different way. Or we want you to do exactly the same thing you did the last time. Any of those things will get you to step off the path. I remember there was a group called Emerald Isle that was doing live action role playing gaming. It was based on the book Dream Park that Larry Niven and I did, and it was like on a raft trip down the Colorado River, and you'd stop and have different stations where you'd do this fantasy role playing gaming. And one of the things was these great looking women dressed like angels would encourage you to leave your group and come with them, with the implications being very interesting. And none of us did. But I asked them later on as we were continuing down the river, what would have happened if somebody had said yes? And they laughed and said, "Oh, well, they would have taken them to an area and then ignored them." That's what's going on here. You're being tempted with the very things, in some cases, that got you started writing in the first place, which was you want people to pay attention to you. You want people to love you. You want people to be spellbound by you. You want your parents and your aunts and uncles to approve of you and think you're beautiful. You want the audiences to look at you and think, wow, I can't wait to hear what happens next. But if you don't understand that you
Make
get
this the season you get the yard of your dreams. A lush private
somebody,
oasis, an inviting place to entertain family and friends.
somebody needs to mute themselves. Okay, good. So we mute everybody and then you come
No,
back
no, no.
normal.
It was totally me. One of my tabs started talking.
Okay, that's cool. So how do you listen to yourself and listen to them and not get swayed? Now, originally what I wanted to talk about was building tribe, being careful about the people you associate with. That's not separate from this. If you need to have somebody who understands you and you want to care about their opinion, choose them carefully. Choose carefully the people. In other words, you're going to need a writer. If you want to be a writer, you need a writer's group. You need somebody to read your stuff, editors, agents, so forth, who hopefully are aligned with your purpose and who it is that you want to be. And you select them carefully. But even if you don't want to be a writer, you have to be very careful of your associations. What we're trying to do is to give everyone a place where every week you can come and you will hear nothing except advice or encouragement to be yourself, to believe that you are enough, to believe that you have something valuable to offer the world. And we speak of our concerns and the way we're navigating that. So this week, I need to be focused on working on the book, which might be called Sigil. There's another title that has gotten much more popular in the house, and that when I was originally writing the book I was originally writing, when I came out of the hospital, I realized that book was not what I wanted to write. That I needed to gut the original book and do something different that was closer to my heart. That was more the book that if I finished writing that book and then I was given the bad news that I wasn't going to live long enough to write another one, I would say, well, thank God I wrote that book that way. That I want that. I want that for everything that I do, every day that I live. At the end of the day, it's now I lay me down to sleep. Did I live this day in alignment with my values? I have a wonderful wife who I can talk to about my real values and who I really am and what it is I'm doing. And I hope she feels she can talk to me the same way. And we're giving that gift to our son so that he understands he has to surround himself with people who will not only see who he is, but see what the best inside him is and encourage him to be the best he can be and not be intimidated by his dreams, his hopes, his actions, not try to drag him down or criticize him. They either can cheer him on and be grateful and be glad for him or be inspired by him and want to march at his side. That's what you want. That's what you want to find. And when you can't find those people, sometimes it's better to be alone. But we're trying to create that for you here. To the degree that we do, we've lived up to our intentions, and we want you to let us know what we can do to make this a place where you can feel supported and go after your dreams. Any final comments, T, or shall we open this up?
Let's open it up.
Okay, great. So the thing that we do now is we like people to talk about where they're going and where they are. Where you are will be measured in terms of what did you do in the first 5 minutes of your day? Your first 5 minutes. What we want you to do is to breathe. Number one, breathe and be grateful for life. Find your heartbeat and be grateful for love, the people you love and who love you. Find the light behind your eyes and think about your path, where it is that you're going and the steps that you're going to use to get there. For instance, the magic formula. Number four is you write down three things that you're going to do by 1 o'clock today, first third of the day, to keep you going in that direction. It can be a small thing like writing a single line of a story. Remember, the first step in the life writing process is write it one sentence a day. And the last thing is you get up and you perform a sun salutation. It's a yoga exercise that is also a ground engagement. It controls, it forces you to be conscious of everything you do moving down to the ground and standing back up again. This is about being an independent human being. When you lose the ability to go down to the ground and back up again, you can no longer live alone. So when you can't do that, you are dependent upon others and you will be more vulnerable to their opinions of you. So we're talking about knowing who you are and believing that you can, if you need to, you can walk alone to get what it is that you want out of this world. Because the truth is that those who are willing to walk alone don't walk alone, because you start walking with integrity, and that integrity attracts other people with integrity. And you start finding out that there were more people on that path than you ever thought. So with that, let's open this up. Where are you? How can we help you? What's going on? Comments, questions, requests about anything that we have brought up here today. You could be writers, you could be readers, you could have a different kind of goal. You might think, what you just said was bullshit, Steve. I'm going to challenge that. It's all okay. Bring it to us and let's work with it live, real time. And as I always say, volunteer or you will be voluntold. All righty. Dr. Will Oliver. Unmute yourself. And good. There you are. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So, what's going on in your life right now that we can support you with? Or what questions might you have?
Um, uh, that's not where I'm at in either of those places. I can describe to you why I arrived in this space for the first time.
All right.
I think that's a worthwhile start.
Yes, it is.
I met a person who has read Tananarive Du's work and attended this space in the past and spoke highly of both of you and thought um, that since she's an admirer of my writing, that it would be interesting for me to come and experience what you all do over here.
Oh, so this is your first time.
Very first time, and it's been
Lovely.
an experience already.
I saw
Well,
you
good.
45
nodding.
minutes.
Saw you nodding your head. I'm like, okay, okay.
So
Yes, in both directions.
allow
The
you
yes
to,
and the no.
it would be
I love it.
interesting to me to know what you agreed with and what you disagreed with. That would be very valuable.
Well, we have a fundamental difference,
Please.
and I will start there. And but rest assured, I never name a problem without naming a solution in the
No, it's
same,
okay.
in the following breath. I am a practitioner of dark radiance, not light supremacy. And I believe that there is a wholeness that, like Pangea, when where there was one continent, there was one landmass, there was one people born onto that, that then separated in climate and color and complexion and all those other things came from it. Swirl all the colors together, there is black. There was black, and then the colors separated, and you had different things. And so that difference between universalism, which is a lot of what I've been hearing, and communalism, which is what I practice, is very important, but it can be subtle. And universalism erases. It says, those differences, are maybe not so important. And communalism says, bring all that difference. It all makes the beauty of existence, and it
May
all
I
makes it magical.
may I
And so,
suggest, Will, that that I don't I'm not committed to either of those paths. I'm not suggesting that either of those paths are right or wrong. I would suggest that there are different ways of looking at things. One way is looking at the differences, the other way is looking at the similarities. Each of them produces different results, and you shift back and forth and see which results are most useful. That would be closer to my thought, that it, more of the yin and the yang of it, that that both are critical in order to
I hear that.
understand the whole.
Then we're in the same space. I call it coessence,
That's fine.
where,
And
yeah,
this right here, this dialogue, the is critical because different people use different language for things.
yep,
What's important is that I understand where you're coming from and the way you see the world. And if you
hmm
are, as you certainly seem to be, a thoughtful, intelligent, loving man who has commitments, my guess is that we're talking about the same mountain from slightly different directions. That's what I'm always going to kind of assume. But language tends to be dualistic. It's this or that. That's what, as soon as we get into language, we're kind of trapped there. Whereas what we want is the experience that the language attempts to describe. So
yeah,
um, I really appreciate your position, even if I don't understand it completely. I
hmm
I grant you in your spirit complete humanity, 100%. And my assumption is that if we were hanging out, we'd end up understanding each other very well, and that the differences were relatively trivial, except important. Those differences are
and that's
important.
the both and, right? They can
Yeah, that's
be
right.
trivial and important. And so, yeah, that is the both and that I try my best to live in and
That's
take it
fantastic.
all as the beautiful soup, right?
Well,
And may I add also
yes,
that I got a lot out of witnessing how you and your wife's differences showed up and how you balanced that and managed to appreciate each other in the way you listened and spoke, and so just as I was experiencing those things with each of you, you were experiencing it with each other. And so it's been a very full 45 minutes.
well, I couldn't ask for more than that. Tananarive, those you
Yeah,
seem to be
it's
trying to say
beautiful.
something.
No, I was just saying I think that's great. So welcome. We're glad to have you in the space. You're right. Steve and I do have our differences, but we work them through every single day because
Yeah,
we have.
I'll tell you, my take on it is that Tananarive she started life in a better place of integration. Her parents were more supportive of who it is that she is. She is a remarkable woman. We see things differently, but in some of those differences, I kind of think, you know something? I wish I had had the opportunity to experience life from that position as long as you have. She has so much to show me. I'm glad that I have things to show her. We came to each other
Yeah.
because we saw both the similarities are make the relationship possible, but the differences make the relationship passionate.
It's a song.
All right. May I just if this be the end and you want to bring in other voices to
You
say
bet.
that if more of us could practice and exemplify that, woo,
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's what
what
I
we could
want. Well,
solve in this world.
and
So
my
thank you for
attitude is
that.
I want to start with us, our family, and I want to move out from there to my tribe, my racial tribe, and the tribe of people who embrace humanity as a whole.
Yes,
I mean
yes,
harm to no one, but I will protect my tribe.
there
It's
it
as
is.
simple as that. So we need visitors like you. And whatever work you're doing in the world, I'm sure that the people you're doing it with are lucky people. So
Oh,
thank you.
thank you. Appreciate
Oh,
your
All right. Thanks
kindness.
for coming. Hope to see you again.
okay, so let's see. Who is next? Who is next? And looking for people who raise their hand or people who will not scream and run if I raise it for them. Rebecca Gordon.
Hello. Uh,
Hello.
well, thanks for calling on me again, I think. No, it's been great. I had forgotten how sort of generative and supportive the fiction writing community is versus, and I love academics, but academic writing is very sort of destructive to the self. And so this
Oh, wait a
both
minute. Wait,
sessions
wait,
have
wait, wait,
been
wait, wait, wait. Okay. Academic writing can be destructive to the
can
self.
be, not always, not
So here's the
always.
question I would ask you. There are people who do academic writing and feel that it is in alignment with their soul and their
And
mind and
that's
their heart.
great.
So, what are they doing? Because there might be some things that they're, if you look at them and say, no, this is a good person, this is a decent human being, how is it that this is easier for them? How is it that this is not destructive for them? So that you can, because
Mhm.
if this is something you have to do, then we know that you're going to have to do more of it in the weeks and months to come. We don't want you to feel like I am selling my soul doing this. I am beating myself to death doing this. So what we want is for you to ask the question, how can I do this academic writing and have fun in the process and do it in a way
Exactly.
that's in alignment with my heart?
Exactly. And really all the steps you were talking about and the 5 steps in the morning and like bringing those practices into that work and viewing one thing that you said repeatedly last week, both to me and to the guy you talked to after, was talking about the looking at it as exponential growth, which is something that has a lot of power
Okay,
as you're
so let me
adding
ask you.
pages.
Let
You're
me
not
ask you.
you're not constantly breaking yourself down because it's not good enough. You're looking at what
That's
you've
right.
achieved and what you've added
That's
to,
right.
and
That's right.
it's really easy to get out of that mindset when you're working on like these nonfiction projects that.
So allow
Um,
me to ask you a question,
so
Rebecca.
yeah,
When is the next time you have to work on one of these nonfiction projects? Today? Tomorrow? Next week? When is it?
every day, and it was really helpful. I have just also had a long illness,
Oh,
and had just been getting back into the groove of work last week when you called on me, and I didn't know that you would be called on your first week. So I share your experience, Dr. Oliver, because I experienced it last week. And it was a really helpful sort of refocusing for me
so
to
here's what I want you to
put it
ask
all down
yourself.
and get back into the groove and get back into the
The morning
steps.
ritual, you start, first thing you do before you even open your eyes, first, as soon as you notice that you're awake, follow your breathing and give thanks to be alive, right? Then you follow your heartbeat and give thanks for love. And then you move into your mind, find the light behind your eyes, and you see this project that you're going to do. Okay, in a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is, you're going to have to turn to this project. Your question is, how can you do this, have fun in the process, and Do it in more alignment with your heart, your soul. Be of benefit to your community, your family, yourself. The little girl inside you who deserves to feel that she's respected. How can you improve that by just 1%? Today,
Mhm.
you're going to work on that. By 1% today, you're going to improve it. So you tell me, how can you do this superbly and be in alignment with your heart? Absolutely. By 1%, just improve by 1%. Tell me now.
Oh, well, I think actually I will say that one of the things that after our talk last week, when I realized I needed that better holistic picture, because you asked me how many pages a day should I do? That now this has some of the references too, but I pulled together the draft and I sat down with a colleague and I'm just showing off my giant. It's real. To
It's
really sort of
real.
break it down and look at
So
how,
did you celebrate, by the way, when you put it all in a binder,
yes,
did you
yes,
celebrate? You dance around like
oh
this?
yeah.
Okay, so tell me, why did you
The work
celebrate?
is real.
What is
Um,
it that is happy making about that?
it felt very I felt very reconnected to the project and in a way
So
that
okay, good. So let's
um,
why is the project something that when you feel connected to it, you feel joy? Why is that project important?
well, it's exciting to think about not just working through the intellectual question of, what you're doing, but thinking about that audience of how you can reach an audience
Ah, so what's
and help them.
exciting, yes, the meaning of life is
Mhm,
to escape suffering, embrace joy, and be of service. So there's a
mhm,
community that you feel like you want to be of service to, right? Okay.
right,
And there is a sense that in doing this, you are in alignment with your Dharma. You're being who it is that you are. So, in other words, the discomfort, the pain is caused not by the activity, but by the way you held the activity.
exactly.
Okay, so when you're being yourself, you're in bliss. You're serving
Mhm,
people, you're expressing yourself. You are a heart and an intellect. You are a child and an adult. You
mhm.
have feminine and masculine qualities. You have the light and the darkness. And both of them, all of them, are contained with who you are. And you're dancing on that edge. And you're having fun. You're showing people how smart you are. You're showing people how smart that little girl inside you is. She always wanted people to both think she was adorable and brilliant. Can't you see how smart I am and how cute I am at the same time? See, that sense, you are now that little girl's mother. You are the one who must tell her she is beautiful and powerful and brilliant. Look at the way the world will respond to you once you touch that little girl. You need to do that. Anything that someone didn't tell you when you were younger, especially if you felt like they were prejudiced because you were too young, or they're prejudiced because of your race, or they're prejudiced because of your gender, you now have the right to rewrite that script, and you will be who you're going to be. I can tell you in no uncertain terms, having died and having been all the way to the end of this, that what you're going to want to know is that your footsteps were in alignment with your purpose and your virtue. You do that, and it's all okay. Everything will be okay. So today, I just want you to have 1% more fun. Now, that means if you do 2% more fun, I'll be very disappointed. And if you were to do 5% more fun, how dare you? Who do you think you are? But 1%, okay, you can have 1% more fun in your life. You can be 1% more powerful, 1% more beautiful. But don't you dare do more than that. Okay?
I'm
Okay.
turning it into a math problem. You gotta.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You understand that you are who you are. Make peace with who you are. As long as you feel like I'd love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with me. Okay, if you do you feel that way? You feel like you'd want to know you?
I think so.
Yeah.
I
You want
think
to feel
so.
that you want to be
I'm stuck
because
with me.
if you don't feel that way, your little girl who was observing your behaviors, what does she think? Your soul. What does she think? My mommy doesn't fully love me. No, you need to be delighted to be you. I mean, just like think that you're absolutely the cat's pajamas. How else can you look at other people who are in pain and say, you have the right to be happy too? The only way you can do that is you can light other people's torch from your torch if your torch is lit.
Hmm.
So be sure that your torch is lit. The people around you are looking for light and heat. They want to know that there's a way to move in the world in integrity with their hearts. Because everything the world says is, give me this, 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 whether it's in alignment with your heart or not. You have to be the one to toe the line. And then you might be lucky enough to find a partner, like I found with Tananarive. Our thing is, I watch her back, she watches my back. If you watch a lion and a lioness together, it's not that they don't fight, they don't scratch, they don't nip at each other, but an outside threat, and suddenly they are together. They are 100% together. Their conflicts have nothing to do with the fact that they are together against the world. I have often told Tanari, we're not married, we're mated. We are lion and lioness. And I have to be the best I can be to be worthy of being with her. You have to be the best you can be, the strongest you can be, to be worthy of that glorious little girl inside you who is both brilliant and beautiful. And don't let anybody ever tell you that you do not deserve to be as happy as any human being who's ever walked this planet. Okay?
I'll
With
take
that,
it.
all right, great.
I agree.
Thank you. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So, who's
Yeah.
oh, I know who's next if they don't raise their hand. I already see who's next. And that's Jacqueline Johnson. Okay, unmute yourself, sweetheart, so we can hear your dulcet tones. The mute button, should be at the bottom of your screen where it says audio. Okay, I'm still seeing you muted. Can you unmute yourself? Oh, I know that you have something interesting to say, and I cannot unmute you.
All right, there's hope.
Yes, got it.
Yay.
Um, how are you both? I haven't been here for a minute,
It's
but
okay.
I always learn something.
Life,
Always.
this is not a substitute for life. This
But
is vitamins for life, not medicine. It's vitamins. Vitamins are more generative. Okay. I
yeah,
could not give you medicine unless I was your personal coach and I was in your presence. So what we have to do is we have to assume the maturity and the intelligence of the people listening to take what it is that we're saying and adapt it to your life. So what can we do to make your life
well,
1% better today?
I think I just want to get both your perspectives on. I had a situation recently where I was asked to blurb someone's book. And in the process of reading their book, I found a lot of um, themes that were similar to my work, and even some really detailed things that were really very similar.
Do you feel like
Um,
you were imitated? This person ripped you off?
um,
Plagiarism?
it felt like a form of theft,
Mm.
and I struggled, and I also struggled because I also didn't like some of the work, or I didn't feel it was up to par. So what I ended up doing was delaying as long as I possibly could. I mean, I wrote them a blurb, but it came in well after the deadline, so that what ended up happening was my name was not included on, will not be on the book, which is, I think, what my spirit wanted to happen. But I very rarely encounter that. Most times I think it's benign, and I think people are just sloppy when they come to doing their final edits on things, and they don't, like, I do an edit in my work for what's in my work that I might have unconsciously taken from someone else. Right? It does happen if you're reading everything, and so that kind of stuff does happen. I found it in my work and I've pulled it out.
Yeah, let's let Tanana
It
Reeve
seems
address this
like
first.
this is, I mean, you've already done the blurb now, but it feels like it's still weighing on your spirit, so it's unresolved for you on your end. It sounds like to me.
Yeah, like I've done what I think I should have done, which is to pull back. and not have my name associated with it.
Do you
I have that.
regret blurbing it at all?
Um, no, I think, I'm always the good, there's always the good girl. She's gonna come through.
All right. Well, all right, at first where I thought you were going was simply that you didn't think it was up to par, which is definitely something I have encountered myself. And there's
It's
specific
both.
advice.
It's both of those
My
things.
specific advice for that piece, and I hate to even admit this, so this may not end up on the air, but sometimes I just get busy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I just run out of time to do the blurb. And I mean, actually, that's true. Sometimes I do just run out of time, but I will especially run out of time if it's something I don't feel like I can blurb in good conscience. And I
Right.
don't want to hurt somebody's feelings by saying, this isn't ready and I don't want my name on it. And that's hard. Now, I did have a situation with a writer who later went on to be a popular writer where her first novel was a learning novel. It had a lot of issues and errors, but I could see the potential in her. So I
Mm-hmm.
gave her the blurb, but I also gave her a list of notes. And that's always, and I've done that a few times. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
first time I did it. So you can learn a lot about a writer by whether they're willing to accept your notes and how they react to your notes. And this writer and I became very good friends. So it was the exact right thing to do. I had a major New York Times bestselling author who took my suggestion to heart. So
Mm-hmm.
a professional writer knows good feedback when they hear it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the piece where you feel like it's borrowing too much from your own style and your own voice. Is this writer a friend of yours?
It's a person I consider a friend, and it's not so much my style as opposed to the themes. I
Yeah,
I,
that's a
I
tough
mean,
one.
I wrote down like six or seven things because I'm like, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? And so I'm questioning it, but there were so many things that I was actually very uncomfortable. And
It's interesting.
and
Because
we're all pulling from similar wells, So, but
it
it
could
it
be zeitgeist. It could be pulling from a similar well. I mean, you might know that right before the Reformatory was published, Colson Whitehead published a novel called The Nickel Boys, which was about the exact same facility, a historical novel. And, someone who knew me was absolutely convinced that was borrowing from my idea because I've been blogging about my book for years, before I finished. And I don't know, I don't think that's necessarily true. I could
Right.
like someone could draw that conclusion, but at the same time, it was in the news. A lot of people would see that story and be inspired by this reformatory. So you could write it off to zeitgeist. It could be homage, you know, um, and they sent it to you, maybe in tribute. It could be also to make sure it didn't bother you. But if this is an actual friend, you may want to have a conversation about it because it won't be a one-off. They're going to come back to you again the next time there's a book. And
Yeah, this is the second time. This person actually titled a project they were working on from a title from, let's say, one of my poems. I write poems, and I sit there going, "Huh," and
Yeah, it
I don't
sounds like
mind
you have a
people.
fan. Sounds like you have a fan. And Tananarive, is there anything else that was critical that you wanted to
no,
say?
I just was
Otherwise, I'll
going to
jump
say
in.
it sounds like if this is a relationship and not just like two ships passing the night, because it's still sitting with you and because it is going to happen again, and it has already happened again, you
Yes.
may want to just have that conversation, once we get over 40, right? I'm just guessing. We get over 40, we're a little
Hey,
less shy.
I'm 32. Ha ha.
Okay, fine. Over 30,
I'm
let's
joking. I'm so
I know.
joking.
But we could take it down to 30. Once we get over 30, we've been through enough that we understand that there's a price to silence. And if this is a friendship that you really want to protect, as opposed to feeling tense or feeling some kind of way, if they
Right.
do something after your book or if the themes then you might need to have a conversation, a gentle conversation, I would say, and
Hmm.
let this person know how you've been feeling.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And I would say
Thank
that
you.
listen to what Tananarive said in terms of the specifics. Let me think about the general principles involved here, because this is going to happen again. In all cases, you have to ask yourself, who are you? And what do you
Hmm.
think is the best and most virtuous aspect of who it is that you are? And then when you imagine that person, you could then ask yourself, how would that person respond to this? So you can see the gap between where you responded and, say, I did the best I could with the resource I had, and how is it that I would like to respond? Because one of the principles is something called premeditatio malorum, which is to
Wow.
imagine a negative circumstance and to think about it before you get there. In other words, this is what you did here. What do you think of this? This is going to happen again. What should I do? In all cases, the answer to that is going to come out of you taking the time to think right now, did I do the best I could do? If I had what additional resource would I like to have? Would it be not
Mm.
caring what they think of me? Would it be being completely committed to helping them? Would it be, and helping them is not necessarily giving them what they want. It might be
Hmm.
giving them what you believe they need. And then if you do that in the most courteous way, loving way possible, if they cannot hear you, you then have allowed them to sort themselves into whichever hat they belong. They do not belong in your intimate circle. Because
Right.
if they do not want honest, direct, but loving and caring feedback, they will not give you honest, direct, loving feedback because they do not want you to give that to them. What they will do is they will either attack you or they will kiss your butt endlessly because they are afraid of hearing your real negative response to them. If what
Hmm.
you need from people, in other words, you be to her what you need people to be to you. And if
Hmm.
she cannot handle that, then you have the responsibility of being as gentle as possible, understanding that she's a baby bird in your hands. She cannot handle the full strength of your opinion. So you might have to find ways to be a little bit more oblique. Test it and see, is her ego right there on her sleeve? Can she handle this? If she can, you go deeper. If she can handle that, you go deeper until you're being as blisteringly honest as possible. What you're going to need in your life is people who both love you and are blisteringly honest about the
Hmm.
imperfections in your form. Otherwise, it's like you're, in a martial arts class and somebody doesn't tell you that you're not blocking your face. Wait a minute. The most loving way they can show you that you're not blocking your face is to pop you in the nose, hard enough to
Right.
cause pain, but not injury, because you're going to pay attention to that. And if you're not going to pay attention to that, you really don't belong in that class until you are ready for that. That the world that they want to move into, if it's a world of writing, there's going to be
Hmm.
rejection. She needs to be as strong as she can be, both in terms of the writing that she's doing and her own sense of self, the ability to take rejection and say, this rejection does not define me. The ability to take
Hmm.
the toughest criticism and understand, I, not say I am afraid or I am angry, but I am experiencing fear or anger. Just being able to
Hmm.
step back and say, I must be afraid because on some level I agree with her. Because if you knew that you had a dollar bill in your hand and somebody says, that's not a dollar bill, that's a leaf, you don't get upset. You realize that they're deluded. If, on the other
Right.
hand, you're holding a leaf and you say, this is a dollar bill, and they say, that's not a dollar bill, that's a leaf, part of you might be afraid because you know that it's not really a dollar bill.
Yeah.
What you need is people who will tell you the truth, and you need the ability inside yourself to hear that truth without it defining you. It defines some behaviors, it defines some attitudes. You need people like that. So does she, but she may not be ready for it. So
Yeah.
walk up on it slowly.
Yeah, I actually had a dream, and and in the dream she shows up as a much younger person, um, kind of presenting herself as innocent, but is not. So
So
I
there's
I think
how do you interpret that dream?
I saw the dream as me as myself still wanting to have a relationship, but but seeing that this person may be too young or too immature to be in relationship.
To have the kind of relationship with you that you need in order to walk your journey with beauty and power. That
Yeah,
you need the truth, but you need people who will give you that truth without trying to beat the hell out of you with it.
yeah,
Does that
yeah.
sound okay? So, does that help by 1% today?
Definitely.
All right. All right. Sounds good. All right. Who else? Let's try to do another 1% here. Um, Mayor, I see a lot of different posts and things like that from you. I would love to find out what can we do to help you one by 1% today. And take yourself off of, unmute yourself, please, sweetheart. Yes,
There we
there
go.
you go.
Usually I'm better at that. I'm sorry.
Yes, no problem.
Um, okay. 1% today. This week has been a very difficult week.
Oh,
Um,
what's been difficult, sweetheart?
I have a disabled daughter, as you know, and we finally made the decision about 2 months ago to find her a group home that was not with us, and we moved her in Wednesday morning.
You must be feeling a lot of conflicting
I'm
emotions.
sure that was hard.
So many.
Jesus, this is hard.
Hmm.
All right. So,
So I did. First off, I want to say you had asked for feedback on the 5 minute in the morning.
yes,
And as I went through all the various steps of this, which were many, they were legion, um, doing the walk in the morning, it became my mantra that I was able to walk through any problem as it arose.
excellent.
That's
And
great.
Superb.
it really did become that. Um, but through the last, well, really since, well, Wednesday morning and yesterday, I wasn't able to do it at all.
I understand. And that's what life does.
Mm.
And so were you able to forgive yourself for that?
Yes, but there's so many emotions going on right now, by the hour, really, that I am trying to forgive myself for that, but also
Do you feel like a bad mother?
there's an element of that for
Yes.
sure.
So what you're experiencing now is some combination of love and fear.
Mm.
So which of the emotions you're feeling relate to fear and which ones relate to love? Just getting clear on those things does not solve them, but it helps you to understand you are not the emotions that you experience. You are experiencing those emotions, and
Mm.
they come from you. Observe them, and you have the opportunity. You're taking the first step towards having a little power. So you've just done something massive. Do not underestimate the power of that. It probably violates your sense of who you're supposed to be and what a good
Mm.
mother is supposed to be and all that stuff. So it's
Mm.
critical for you. I would first of all, I would think about journaling what you're experiencing so that the feelings get out of your heart and into your mind and then out of your mind and onto the page where you can
Mm.
observe them. Psychologists neuro-linguistic programming people will have you, rather than experience an event directly, they'll have you sit in a movie audience and watch the experience on the screen.
Mm.
Separate yourself. So tell me right now about the emotions that you're feeling and how they relate specifically to love and fear.
Well, first off, because of your miracle, I have been journaling probably more extensively than I have in years.
Good.
That has helped. The love and fear is uh I don't know how much experience anyone has with this in this group, but when you place someone who's disabled in an adult family home in Washington State, you sign over everything. So everything that I've been in charge of, I am no longer in charge of. Um, the medications, the refills,
Is
the
this irrevocable?
no, not at all. I could
Okay.
pull her out tomorrow,
Okay.
but while she's under someone else's supervisory care, they have to be in charge of all that.
Yes.
So where I was in charge of medications twice a day and reminding my child to bathe and doing her laundry and all of these tasks, now someone else is doing them. And
Is your fear that they can't do it competently, or is your fear that it's your job and this means that you're bad and wrong?
the second one,
Okay.
having to step back from what I've been doing for decades. They're 30 years old.
There's
Um,
nothing that's going to be easy about this. There's going to be no magic formula for this, but there is a direction that you can move in to accept that you have, at every moment of your life, done the best you could with the resources you had. There has never been a moment in your life when you have not done the best you could with the resources you had. What changes is we get more resources and learn how to access different resources. So if you can forgive yourself, that's a major step. It will enable you to be the best mother. Let's say that your intention is to be the absolute best mother you can be. One of the things you
mhm.
need to do then is to see as clearly as possible what needs to be done. I think, I suspect, from the kind of person you seem to be, that you were doing, once again, the best you could with the resources you had, with her welfare being paramount. However, there is also a place inside you that feels relieved not to have those things, and you are going to look at that relief as a dirty emotion. Be-
I'm laughing because that's true.
Yeah, of course it is. Fear and love together. You love her, so you want to do the best you can for her. And you also have a self image, and your image of yourself has
Mhm.
been disappointed by your actions. You did not live up to your image of yourself. Whereas the truth of who you are is enough. The truth of who you are, a loving spirit doing the best you can, but still just a human being, is enough. To know that we are enough, who would you have to forgive in your life to be able to forgive yourself? Because I
Yeah.
can promise that there are people in your life who were doing the best they could do, and you have not been able to forgive them, which gives you the rule that now allows you to beat the hell out of yourself.
Huh. Well, that's going into some deep family
And I
history.
don't need
Yeah.
to, you don't need,
Yeah.
this is none of my business. This is for you to
No.
write in your journal.
Yeah, to think about.
It's for
Yeah,
you to
no.
think about. This is between you and you. This has nothing to do with me. I'm not trying to get in your business. What I'm saying is that yeah, he lied.
No.
That that the rules we use tend to be more consistent than we think. That the way we treat other people is a
Mm,
reflection of the way we feel about and treat ourselves. So if you're beating the hell out of yourself, I'm going to make a guess that you have not been willing to forgive others. And you didn't forgive them because to forgive them you thought would mean that they could come back into your life and do it again. That's the
mm,
usual way that reason we don't forgive people because we're afraid that they'll hurt us again. So it's better to keep them at a distance. Whereas the other thing is the absolute knowledge that you will fight to the death to defend yourself and your family
mhm,
against the outside world. As soon as you understand that you have the right and the responsibility to be willing to lay down your life to defend your soul, then it's easier to forgive the people because you can see how their fear made them dysfunctional. And they were probably responding to something their parents did, if it's parents, and who were responding to something that their parents did. And that you have the ability to stop this in the world right now. And now you're looking directly at how we save the world by loving ourselves and being ruthless with ourselves and not allowing other people to mess with us,
mhm.
which gives them permission to not let people mess with them.
I
And
just
we
have a
go for it, T.
couple small thoughts. First of all, trust yourself that you did not take this decision lightly. Your
Mhm.
daughter's 30 years old. That's a long time to be caretaking, and you have good reasons. You
Mhm.
had good reasons. So trust that process. Trust the walking. You know, it's really hot now in LA. I like to walk in the mornings. It's like full bright in the mornings. I don't like walking in bright sun, and sometimes I miss it. I feel that. When I
Mhm.
miss my morning walk, I feel it. So give yourself a chance to get back into your routines before
Mhm.
you give too much significance to the emotions.
Mhm.
And you can always revisit if those emotions persist over time and become overwhelming and you feel like you were better off before, you always have the chance to do that. But right now, I think you should trust the process, trust your tools. And for what it's worth, I don't know if it's worth anything. In my research for Maisiewood, Dorothy Dandridge went through a very similar situation as you. Her daughter was born, was never able to take care of herself.
Mhm.
And, you know, she had various people who would take care of her while she tried to have her career, but it was a source of great pain and guilt for her entire life, which I think helped really contribute to her early demise.
Mhm.
So those emotions can be devastating, and keep an eye on them would be my advice.
What we can offer you the theories and the perspectives and the philosophies, but it's the practices that will do it. Okay. In other words, what we say, if you trace the emotion back to fear, then you can deal with the fear directly. I am afraid. I am experiencing fear. How can I do this best? How can I be the best mother I can be? One of the things I need to do is to handle my own stuff. Okay?
Mhm.
I'm not going to deny my daughter the resources she needs because I'm guilty. I feel guilty. Don't do
Mhm.
that. You're not helping anybody if you do that. You best help her by being able to be as present as possible, see exactly what's happening so you can see what's necessary in this next movement. You can deal with that by clearing your eyes as much as you can. In our system, when we talk about the warrior-walk.com,
Mhm.
www.warrior-walk.com is the complete system for this. And what we say is go there, take a look at it, and if you can't afford a copy, let us know. We will give you a free copy if you cannot afford it. Try to find somebody else who'll say something like that. We want you to live with passion and integrity within yourself and also take care of your family, right? So, what you could do is if you're doing the warrior walk and you could walk for 3 minutes continuously, being totally conscious, be like a Tai Chi walk, totally conscious of heel to toe. Now add weight in your hands
Mhm.
so that you are under a weight. The physical weight, the
Mhm.
physiological weight is the metaphor for the emotional weight that you're carrying. Okay? When you learn to walk with balance, straight spine, smooth balance, giving thanks for having a body that is strong enough to carry this weight. See,
Mhm.
that you're learning how to breathe with power. And if you are breathing, and your emotions are created by three things: the way you use your body, the things you focus on, and the language that you use. When you are doing the things within the warrior walk, the sun salutation, the Turkish get up, and walking, even if you're doing it with a sock on your hand, you're carrying a couple cans of beans, I don't care. You are creating a metaphor for the emotional stress that you must carry with grace in this world as an adult. Because if adults don't learn to carry that weight, the children are not safe. And our job, your job, my job as adults, if we're going to enjoy the adult freedoms, we must accept the adult responsibilities. Your daughter cannot do that. She doesn't have the tools. She needs you to be strong for
Mhm.
both of you. And she needs you, in order for you to be as strong as you can be, you must live your life with virtue and purpose and joy. Escape suffering, embrace joy, and be of service. What you
Mhm.
don't want to do is to be of service, but deeply resenting it.
Mhm.
And there are tons of parents who do that. That rather than coming from a place of joyful service to this being you love, and say, well, I guess I have to do this. And
Mm.
she will feel it. She will know that she is a drag on your life. What the Stoics say is the obstacle in your path becomes the path. You have accepted the responsibilities for helping this woman through life who cannot help herself. If you accept that with consciousness, then every step you take is a testament to the quality of your character and the love in your heart. And yes, it is heavy, but this is who we are. That you are defining yourself with every step as the kind of person who could do this and still see love and joy in the world. That is an extraordinary human being. That is the kind of human being who can heal the entire world. You've been given this gift of an opportunity to say, I accept this load. I accept it with joy. But that means that you have to be the best you can be. You have to actually be committed to being a person of purpose and worth who is in touch deeply with the love within you. It is in touch with the rabid female, rabid lioness who would do anything to protect her cubs. Anything, including protect her cubs from her own fear. That woman is one who will find that we are her allies every time she shows up. Because we all need that strength. And if we can see you handling that strength, it helps us be strong. And hopefully, if you can see us carrying our load, it helps you be strong. And we want that for you. I can't help your daughter, but you can. That means if I can help you, I'm helping your daughter. I love that. And if you can help me, you're helping my son. And you're helping my wife. And you're helping my tribe. And you become a sister on the path. Find that warrior woman inside you. She is there. You're not helpless. You're a lioness. Own it. And we will help you every step of the way that you come here and share our path. Is that fair?
Yes. Thank you.
Did you get your 1% today?
Yes. I think you is my 1%.
Okay, sweetheart. We are at the end of our time here. Tananarive, before you give us our extra,
Yeah.
do you have anything you wanted to comment about what got done here today? And then I'll let you do the extra.
Yeah, I thought this was a great a great session. So glad that we had new and newish people here to join us. Hope you'll come back next Friday. We do this every week. Tell your friends.
Yeah, we're
We do
not
this.
going to be here next Friday, but we'll be
Oh,
here
that's
the
right.
Friday
Next Friday.
Friday after that. And please go to put it in chat www.warrior-walk.com. It will give you all the theoretical base for everything that we're doing here. And I mean it. We are not bluffing. If you need a copy and cannot afford it, let us know and we will get you a free copy. Our commitment is to you. Don't let us care more about you than you care about yourselves. We will nail you about that. We need a community of warriors and lovers. A community of lovers and
You
warriors.
sounded sexy when you said that, lover.
Hey now.
Not just
All
talking to
right.
me, talking to
Look,
everybody. Okay. So why don't you all go out and make yourselves the hero or heroine in your own story?
the hero in the adventure of your lifetime. Join us on lifewrite.com and join us next week right here at
Bye bye.
thefiredance.com. Everybody, unmute yourselves, cheer each other, and we're going out. Unmute.
Friday,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody. Thank
Goodbye,
you.
everyone. Have a great
Peace
weekend.
and
All
blessings,
right.
Care.
Take
everybody.
care.
Great
And
talk
we will see you
today.
All
next
right.
time.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Or Mace Windu.